Hello, my name is Julia Moline, and I oversee direct housing logistics nationwide. Today, I'm going to talk about how FEMA provides housing assistance to individuals. As we will discuss, direct housing is a powerful solution, but will not serve everyone and is not an overnight solution. If you are concerned about individuals or communities living in substandard living conditions, please contact your state point of contact or a FEMA division supervisor. In some instances where financial assistance is not an effective solution and where survivors meet certain eligibility criteria, FEMA may provide a physical unit for a disaster survivor. To be eligible for direct housing, the survivor's primary residence must have been damaged by the disaster. And if the survivor owns their primary residence, disaster damage to the property must meet a minimum per square foot threshold as set in the Individual Assistance Program and Policy Guide. And if the survivor rents their primary residence, the home must have been destroyed or received major damage as a result of the disaster. Direct housing solutions are tailored to meet the specific needs of individual disaster survivors, so direct housing is not an overnight solution. There are three primary mechanisms by which FEMA delivers direct housing, including direct lease, multifamily lease and repair, and temporary transportable housing units, including travel trailers and manufactured housing units. Direct lease is a program by which FEMA leases existing housing units that are ready for occupancy on behalf of applicants. Direct lease allows FEMA to take advantage of existing housing stock and can be much faster than other options. FEMA tries to avoid competing with disaster survivors for the same types of units, so we target units that are not typically available to the public. These may include vacation rentals, corporate apartments, second homes, and condominiums. For all direct housing options, units must have a bathroom, a kitchen, and a common space. Property owners who are interested in doing business with FEMA should register at the System for Award Management, sam.gov. You can find specific information requirements for interested property owners at sam.gov. And counties can share this information with interested property owners, property management companies, and the general public. Multifamily lease and repair is a program by which FEMA repairs existing multifamily buildings, by which I mean 3 or more units, in exchange for being able to use the units to house disaster survivors. Multifamily lease and repair is not typically a primary direct housing solution, but a few large multifamily buildings can go a long way towards housing disaster survivors. As with direct lease, property owners interested in doing business with FEMA should register at sam.gov and monitor for requests for information and solicitations. Counties can share this information with interested property owners, property management companies, and the general public. FEMA can provide a temporary transportable housing unit, which is typically either a travel trailer or a manufactured housing unit. Travel trailers are small, flexible, and easy to move and are our fastest option. Travel trailers can be a great solution for a private property owner with a small lot. However, they're not ideal for longer-term living. All of FEMA's travel trailers are pull-away, none are motorized. Manufactured housing units are regulated by the HUD code and are more suitable for longer-term living. Manufactured housing units are larger than travel trailers and require more space and infrastructure. They come in 1, 2, and 3 bedroom configurations. All of FEMA's manufactured housing units are single-wide, and lengths vary based on the number of bedrooms. FEMA can place units on private property, commercial sites, or vacant land. The best and fastest option is to place a housing unit on a survivor's private property. This option keeps survivors close to home to oversee their recovery and involves the least amount of planning and coordination. In order to place a unit on a private site, FEMA must be able to access the site with a heavy unit. The site must have enough space for the unit. The site must be safe in terms of flood, landslide, and other risks, and the site must have functional water, sewer, and electric. One action local officials can take now is to evaluate zoning restrictions, such as setback requirements, that could affect individuals' ability to place units on their property. With quick permitting and coordination with local officials and utilities, FEMA can install a temporary housing unit on a private site within a few weeks of determining a survivor's eligibility. The next best option for temporary housing placement is in an existing commercial park, such as a mobile home park or a campground. Existing parks are great because we can take advantage of existing infrastructure. If needed, FEMA can assist with debris clearance and utility repairs to make use of the park. Another action local officials can take is to identify commercial parks and send local information to their FEMA points of contact. Commercial parks can take a little longer than private site placement because it requires securing land leases and may require some utility or site work to implement. The last and slowest option for unit placement is to convert vacant land into what FEMA calls a group site. In these instances, FEMA will prepare the site and install all utilities to ensure that the site is operational. The infrastructure work required can add significant time. The biggest driver of timelines for group sites is identifying and securing land, including navigating ownership, permits, environmental and floodplain reviews, and local cultural considerations. Group sites can add a minimum of 3 to 4 months to the implementation timeline. Although FEMA tries to avoid group sites, it is important to begin the identification and evaluation process early in the disaster to ensure that this option is available if it's needed. County officials can start identifying possible group site locations and sending that information to FEMA. FEMA does have the option to sell temporary units to occupants. I do want to take a moment to mention some floodplain management considerations. FEMA aims to reduce risks to survivors and never wants to create new risks with our post-disaster assistance. To the extent possible, FEMA avoids placing units in the special flood hazard area. However, there are instances where there is no practicable alternative. FEMA works with local government to evaluate options on a case-by-case basis and to determine the best course of action. The Stafford Act does prohibit FEMA from selling units placed in a special flood hazard area to occupants. Counties can begin thinking about long-term housing recovery now. Actions may include identifying opportunities to develop new, affordable housing. FEMA works with individual disaster survivors to determine the course of action that best suits their needs. FEMA will provide as many units as individual survivors need. FEMA works with each individual disaster survivor to determine the best course of action. FEMA has units on the ground and is working with individual eligible disaster survivors now to determine specific needs and timelines. No, FEMA will only put a unit on your property with your permission.